Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Us. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
What's up, my friends? My name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and we got our good friend, Dr. John Delony, back for the third or fourth time, I think?
Who knows? Woohoo! We're excited to have you here, though, man.
Absolutely. What's up, my man?
Dude, it's good to see you guys. Y'all are looking better than ever, man. Fantastic.
That's not what you said off air just now. So.
It's not. All right. Melanie
How to live a non-lying life with...
Melanie looks stunning, and I just wonder if you're okay, Seth. That's all.
I'm all right.
You look good. You've been sick?
You look good.
Well, yeah, one of my friend's dads in the South, so he said, yeah, you look good. You've been sick? I'm like, that's not a compliment. Yeah.
But we're excited to have you on the show today to talk all about your book and all the things that you do. But first, why don't you tell people who you are if they don't know who you are? Who is John Delony?
I'm John. Husband. Got a couple of kids. They're great. And a bunch of chickens, a couple of dogs. I got a third dog, which is that was probably my worst purchase I've made in a long time.
Same. We also have a third dog. Worst purchase ever.
Gosh, if I could undo that one, man, like on so many levels. And I have an 8-year-old girl, and she's attached. It was a terrible decision I made.
It's no
and I
going
way
back.
overpaid for it. I bought both of my dogs for $50 at like the pound kind of thing, or like off Craigslist.
Yeah.
And this goofball, it's like a vehicle. Anyway, that's what I get for impulse purchasing something for my daughter. So there we go.
And now she's attached.
Hey,
so.
we're good, man.
Good.
That's right. And unlike you, I'm not licensed. I just play one on the internet, so it's fun.
On the internet. Well, I play one too sometimes. I feel like it. No, but we want to talk about your latest book, Building a Non-Anxious Life. And this is going to be fun because I know you've got talking points and stuff like that, and we can maybe nerd out a little bit or just kind of go where we want to.
Nerd out.
Okay, so this is not in any talking points at all. But actually it is kind of. But as I was going through the book, and as a therapist, I've diagnosed 1,020,000,000 people with either depression, adjustment, disorder, and of course, generalized anxiety disorder, right? And I don't always agree with the DSM. It's a tool, sure. Sorry, if I nerd out, just tap my leg too hard or anything.
You're good.
But it's basically a labeling system, and so many clients of mine come in to see me, and then they hear that they have a label, then they go, yep, I knew it. I have this, now this is my name. I'm like, no, I'm not naming you. This is not a naming ceremony or anything. It's just, this is kind of some patterns that we're seeing, and let's work on that. But so many people go, oh well, I'm bipolar 2 or whatever. I'm not. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a human first, of course. It's like, well, generalized anxiety disorder. No, you're not. Let's tweak some things, and I think we can get through this, right? But how do you define anxiety? Because I have a huge problem with it. I know that you do too. But let's talk about it.
Well, before we get into the definition, man, I think it's important to just click on what you just said, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, modern day therapists are in a nightmare scenario because the leaders of our organizations, the marriage and family therapists, the LPC boards, the social work community, they wanted so badly to be taken seriously, as though that what they didn't offer wasn't serious, and so they tried to align themselves with the medical community,
Right?
Because that was the god in the system, right? So then you have medical doctors and psychiatrists, and then psychologists, and then all the rest of us. And so in doing so, it was, how can we get insurance reimbursement? How can we actually get paid a living wage for what we're doing? As society continues to pull relationships apart and pull the strings on all these things that have held us together for eternity, right? Education and religious systems and family systems, as it's all been pulled apart, you have this group of people emerge that say, hey, I will go through all of undergrad, all of graduate school. I will learn how to listen. I'll learn how to be present. I'll learn how to sit with somebody. I'll learn how to teach them some new skills they can practice here with me. And then nobody has any money, and so it has to go to the insurance system. And so they say, okay, if you got these series of things, and if you go look at like generalized anxiety disorder, I think one of them is intrusive thoughts, and one of them is like lack of thoughts, and one of them is like sleeping too much, one of them is not sleeping enough. It's just basically like
Everything.
any number of things going on in your life.
Let me clarify on that. It's irritability as a criteria. Irritability is like, everybody's ill all the time, right? Difficulty concentrating and just scattered thoughts. I'm like, you just named everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone I know,
right,
who's been coming out of COVID and is just trying to get the new Netflix series watched and get all their kids bathed and, get the dogs, these stupid dogs we keep buying. Like, that's all of us, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I think that the DSM, the manual, is also, I think it was helpful for researchers in Rhode Island to talk to researchers at Berkeley on the West Coast, like, hey, when we're researching depression, let's make sure we're all saying the same thing. Cool.
Right.
It was never intended to be released on the internet to the wild, to have you and me and and like you got clients coming in telling you I'm depressed or I'm anxious. And if you don't justify what I just told you, I'm gonna take my money somewhere else. And so it's like, man, that's an impossible position for people to be in. And so, man, it's cool to be like, I'm gonna buck the system. I'm not doing diagnostics. Cool. You're not gonna have any clients, right? Or you're gonna only serve wealthy, cash-paying folks, and you're gonna leave the vast majority of working class Americans who need some help with their marriages. You're gonna be left on your own, right? And so, for me, anxiety and specifically was, let's just demystify this whole thing. And so I just define it as, it's just an alarm system. That's it. It's just your body recognizing something in its environment, in its world that, or maybe several things that it deems make you unsafe. And it's going to sound the alarms. And those alarms might be racing thoughts. Those alarms might be increased heart rate. Those alarms might be inching towards, I think depression and anxiety are on the same trend line, inching towards, oh, let's just shut the whole thing down. Right? Let's get under a blanket and I'm gonna just I'm gonna compress the whole system. But it's just your body trying to get your attention that things aren't okay. Yeah. And I think if we over dramatize it beyond that, then we are giving people liberty, like what you say is, well, I'm a this, and so, therefore I can't do any of these other things in my world that make me a good marriage partner, a good son or daughter, a good community member, a good student. I can't do any of that because I'm a this. Right. And I think it's killing people.
Yeah, it's ruined. I mean, this sounds over dramatic, but it's true, just anecdotally from the work that we do. It's really messing things up, like destroying lives, destroying relationships. Like, oh, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have whatever, therefore I can't, right? Rather than, I think how it was supposed to be designed. It's like, oh, you're presenting symptoms of X, Y, Z. Here's what you need to do to alleviate these symptoms, and then do some work. It's like, you can't just fall back. Oh, I have anxiety. Well, I have depression. I hate this as a systems thinker, systems family therapist. Well, I'm just this way, right? Because what you're doing is giving yourself.
That sentence gives me hemorrhoids, dude.
I know.
Instant. Like, it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I think it's important to say the other side, what you just mentioned. When my buddy, who's a physician, when I went and sat with him, I was a chaotic mess. When he said, this book tells me that you can be labeled with this and with this, I exhaled. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm not somehow, right? So there is a gift in naming the dragon, right? There's that social norming. Like, I want to know that I'm not losing everything I've got. It's like, no, dude. Your body tries to solve stress by counting a lot of things over and over and over and over again and checking the locks over and over. You're not broken. That's just how your body tries to handle stress. Let's dig into that.
Yeah.
Whew, thank God, right? That's not I have OCD, I can never do these things again. Right. And whew, man, what a mess. What a mess.
Yeah. The naming something is, so that's like part of it's normalizing, right? I'm not crazy. I'm not losing it. And then, people have said this all my life. Yeah. Then they also thought I was crazy, but I'm not. I just have some things going on that I need to work on, right? But a lot of people just, again, that's their ticket to do nothing. And, of course, I mean, we can be on a soapbox all day, right? But then society goes, oh, yeah, well, you have this, so you're over here. Don't worry about it. And it's like, no, that's not helpful. That's certainly not how we're raising our kids. I know you, and you're not raising your kids that way. But I think if people can go to a professional, get some relief in that, like, okay, I'm getting educated about my problems. I'm shedding some light on this subject. Now I'll start the process of healing. Not, oh, this is my free ticket to do whatever for bad behavior, bad spouse, bad dad, bad whatever. It's like, no, we're.
Well, hey, dude, I think it's us professionals. I think it is educators. Dude, the backlash is coming. It's coming hard against because. We've been told for the last 20 years, you in clinics, offices, and me in high schools and colleges, that the world has to bend to the way your body handles stress. And so don't say anything that's going to make somebody upset in class. Don't give them an assignment that's going to make them upset. Don't give them a thing that's going to set this off or that off or that off or that off. And suddenly we've created a world that nobody can move in and nobody likes being hemmed in, and everyone's starting to scream. And the people who are going to be at the bottom of this deal are those that were told, you have a thing, you've got generalized anxiety disorder, you've got socialized anxiety disorder, you've got whatever, go sit in the corner and we'll pat you on the head. You get to opt out of the world. Well, the world will just come to you, and they're going to find out real harshly. They are right now, slowly but surely. You don't get to opt out. The world's going to run you over because they have no skills now, right? And we did that, and we got to own that, and then make a different plan moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something that I want to comment.
Sorry, we're both on the soapbox. We're both up here.
Well, you know what? I wish I had the luxury. So, as we see coaching clients, like I bring the clinical piece in it, like it's not, I call it therapeutic coaching, right? But the high performance marriage coaching piece, Melanie can rip people new ones. So but in a way that my training goes, no, you can't do that. So I'm having to unlearn this stuff. But it is such a benefit, and I'll tell you this truthfully, it is such a benefit to the clients that we see, because her perspective from that, she's like, no, I see this, and clients hate her for 2 seconds, and then
love me forever,
they work through it and go, that is what I needed to hear, which is amazing.
Terry Real, I think, is the one who's called it out the most prominent, and when he said, it's as a therapist, as a coach, it can be cruel to let somebody just sit in a dysfunctional behavior, and then just keep asking them, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? It's cruel. Tell them stop.
Yeah.
Tell them stop. Right? Call it out. And yes, there's going to be clashes of beliefs and judgments and curiosity. All that stuff is going to happen, but it can be cruel just to look at a husband who's not being physically abusive, but he is squashing his wife and emotionally, and to just be like, well, how does that make you feel? It's just mean. Tell them stop. Tell them stop. Right. So it's both and of course it's ripe for abuse, like everything is. But man, I think there needs to be a sea change.
Yeah. Well, and from my perspective, when I look at all of these things, because I love the clinical world, the people who are out there doing the research and writing the books, think it's amazing. But there's a big, huge gap between those people and the people who are trying to practice these things, and there's tools missing and there's resources missing. And something that you said a minute ago, I think we are all drowning now in emotional intelligence. We know, and I don't mean practical emotional intelligence. I don't mean emotional maturity. I mean, we know all the terms. We know.
Just go do it.
Yeah, I know. And it's you can have all the intelligence in the world, but if you don't have the practical skills to get out of it and move through it and find the next level, then you don't really have anything. And that's something that I'm so passionate about with our clients, is teaching them, casting a vision for what health looks like. If I could say.
And we've told people. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I mean, and I was just going to say, sure. I have depression and anxiety. I take medicine for it, right? But I don't go, forever diagnosis, always going to have it, always going to feel this way. I do take my medicine every single day on purpose, but I also have a vision of what health looks like. I had to create that for myself so that I have a goal to drive towards. Otherwise, sadness begets sadness begets sadness. Anxiety fuels anxiety fuels anxiety. And I think there's just so much to be said about casting that vision and sort of setting those goals for what health looks like. But what were you going to say?
I forgot. It was going to be probably the most important thing I've ever said. And I just lost it.
Probably your next book.
But here's the deal. You just said it perfectly. That it's both and. Like, you've got some genetic dispositions, you've got some learned behaviors, you've got some behavioral things. You're married to Seth. You have all these things, right? And so
that's a big one.
So. Yeah, it's the big one. Yeah, that's the Trazodone. That's the big one. But here's the thing. That doesn't give you an excuse to not show up in your life. You still got kids. You're still married. You still said I do. You still have a business, right? So it means you are going to have some extra work to do. I know that I have to check the locks multiple times before I go to bed. What does that mean? That means I just start bedtime 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early. 15 minutes. I don't fight myself anymore. And then I also know that I'm super anxious just as a disposition. Yep. So I got to go over and above in what I eat and what I exercise and how I am with relationships. I've got to do these things similar to somebody that's 5'8". You can't be a post in a basketball game. You're 5'8". You got to learn how to shoot from a long way away. That's if you want to play basketball, that's what's going to be your lot, right? Mm-hmm. And instead of saying this is what makes life hard and this is what makes me pretty amazing, we just want to cut the heads off of everybody, make everything the same, and it's just not going to work that way. It doesn't work.
For some reason, when you said that, this idea popped into my head of that we give our anxiety meaning. We give it meaning. Oh, I have this. It must mean that. It must mean that I can't, whatever, or I'm never going to. Yeah, it's like this deficit meaning that we give it. And one of the things that I had to do with my own anxiety, and again, this is definitely a family thing. Almost everyone in my family suffers with depression and anxiety. I had to go like, so what? Yeah, I've got anxiety. Yeah, locking the doors more than blah, blah, blah. So what? Now what? Now what do I do with that? Because what's the option is, what do I I just sit in my living room? Like, is that the best option here? And I love to like almost like pick your own ending, you choose your own adventure idea. Okay, and what if I keep this same behavior up for 5 more years? What's that going to look like? If I let my anxiety drive the car and run the show, what's that going to look like? How about if I tweak it 2 degrees? What's that going to look like? How about if I tweak it 50 degrees or 180? And really allowing yourself as a person to say, let me imagine these different futures in relationship to a thing I've struggled with, maybe just right now, maybe just postpartum, maybe just when I moved to a different state or whatever that looks like. But changing the fact that anxiety doesn't mean anything. It means what you make it mean, right? So for me, anxiety
what you allow it to mean.
Yeah, whatever you decide the meaning should be. But you got to decide. And I love the origin of the word decide means to cut. It's like you got to cut. You got to decide. This stuff stays. This stuff goes. You're deciding. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about that. But I wanted to ask you, John.
I love it.
What do you think? Like, what do you wish more people talked about in relationship to anxiety, and maybe what more people did not talk about in relationship to it?
The not is I wish it was not like a tattoo, like a new identity, right? Like a thing that I identify as. I wish that language was gone. I wish more people knew that their body's probably working really well, given the set of chromosomes you got. I know that's not the right word, but the set of genes you got, and the set of environments you grew up in, and the set of situations you've endured, and the set of life that you're living right now, whether on purpose or you were just on a marginalized population, you were dropped right in the middle of it, whatever it is. I wish that most people most of the time knew, no, your body's working exactly as it should. You got to change the environment. You got to change the way you're choosing to do life, or you're going to have to get out of some of these marginalized situations because your body's just doing what it's designed to do, which is to get your attention and keep you alive. And I say often those things that kept us safe as a kid will kill us as we're adults. It'll destroy our adult relationships. And so we got to decide, we got to know, okay, disappearing when drunk dad came home, getting in mom's face to protect little brother as a kid, that kept our family afloat. That kept me alive. And doing that to my wife is going to end my marriage. Doing that to my kids is going to destroy my children, right? And so I have to know, it used to work. Now I got to learn something new. And that's hard, man. It's really hard. But, man, until people stop going to war with their bodies, we're just told everything's broken about all of us all the time. All the time. And then when you finally feel like everything's good, then you're like, well, now you got to take a cleanse, right? And you got to crap for 5 days. Like we can't just stop.
Right.
We can't stop. Most of our bodies are amazing, intuitive, like, I don't want to call them machines, but amazing, intuitive things. And ask yourself, man, like, what's my body trying to protect me from right now? It's a much easier way to launch into new ways of living than, I have this thing, I got to hide. And it's just,
what's interesting too is, it makes me think too that like stillness probably is a great start for a lot of these things, not necessarily action. You know what I mean? So sometimes
being still is the most difficult.
Unless that's like the response, you know what I mean? But like stillness as in like think, like if I could wave a magic anxiety wand over myself and go, what would it look like if this was gone? What would a healthy me even look like? What would a balance, like I use the example of getting in mom's face and yelling to protect little brother, but now I'm doing that to my wife. If you could wave a magic wand and not do that, who would you even be if that was out of the picture? And that starts with stillness. It doesn't start with crapping and a juice cleanse. You know what I mean? It doesn't start with all.
So, I actually think here's what makes it hard. We're working through a new thing we're doing here, and the dev guys, the guys trying to create products, were getting frustrated with me because I would tell them, hey, there's a single mom who's going to walk in the door and she's going to rattle off her life. I'm going to say, hey, whoosh, you've got to stop. Stop. You need some stillness. And then there's going to be somebody else that walks through the door. I'm going to say, you got to stop thinking and start acting right now. You got to start doing differently. I do think that we as mental health folks have sold people a bill of goods that mental health, whatever that even means anymore, is all the right thoughts in the right order. And I don't think that's true.
No,
I think often action and doing and deciding I'm going to show up even when I don't want to, when I'm tired, when I'm frustrated, when I'm anxious, when I'm sad, that's when you teach your body and your body begins to learn, we can deal with this.
Yeah.
And that's exposure therapy,
Yes.
right? You got to go through it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's I need to stop. And then other times, quit thinking, go start doing the next right thing. So I think it's both answers.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, the
That's
next
great.
right thing. I had a client, let's see, maybe 2 weeks ago, and there's some big changes coming up for her, like chosen changes. And like she's been my client for like 8 months, right? And, I don't know how to do this. I just need to make sure my mental health is right. I'm like, hold on. What is that? What?
Hold up.
Hold up. I said, I said, wait a minute. We've been doing therapy. You're in mental health therapy. We have goals. You're progressing. What do you mean by that? And I was doing, so I'm going to get another soapbox real quick, but don't let me. I've done 75 hard, right? For like 5 times. And I was in the middle, like day 50, and my mind was just racing. I'm like, I just got to do stuff. I got to do it. And I'm like, I didn't stop because I was running at the time. And I said, Seth, you are doing what you said you would do. You're doing it right now. That's like, I just wish I was married. I am married. What are you talking about, right? So we get so caught up in the, it's over there. When I get that settled, it's no, stop. Like I'm going to like your belief. I know you're talking about in your daily choices, but belief is higher power and stuff, which we can talk about. But like the belief that you are doing something, you have to. That kind of ties into reality too. Like what are you actually doing? Oh, I just don't want to sit on the couch all day. Well, you're sitting on the couch all day. You have to accept that. Or I've got to work on my mental health. You've been in counseling for 8 months. I think I'm a decent therapist, right? So we're working on mental health.
You're doing that right now.
Yeah.
I know, like you're doing it. And like some people don't give themselves credit and because they've been so caught up in the, if I can just, whatever, XYZ, if I could just futurecast my life.
I think that people, and this has been my big revelation of the last 12 months, and I don't want to bore you with my personal story, but I think everybody thinks it's going to feel a certain way when they get to wherever it is they're going. And we hear that all the time, like there's no finish line and there's no there. We know that, but I think all of us, whether we like cognitively think about it, I think we expect things to feel a certain way. And when I am mentally well, I will feel mentally well. No, you'll still feel scared and less than and not enough. You're just going to be able to head right into it.
Right.
And same as like our marriage just ran its course, which I think is the stupidest line imaginable. No, one of you quit. They don't just stop. One of you quit putting one of y'all stopped or both of you didn't want to work on anymore. That's fine, but don't just say, it just ended. It doesn't work like that. And so I think we think things are going to feel a certain way. I'm just going to feel in love like this. I'm going to feel this. I'm going to feel this. And we get disillusioned when it happens. If I just make this much money, then I'm going to feel the sense of, you're not. I promise you won't. And so it's recognizing my feelings are important. And man, they keep you from burning alive, but they are terrible GPS systems. They are terrible roadmaps to follow because they will lead you all over the damn place.
Yeah. Right? We tell our clients, and I think you said this, feelings aren't facts, right?
No,
They're
important, but they're not factual.
No, they're not factual. And if you grew up in a family system, I'm talking about myself, which was very feelings based, it is really, really difficult to gain a different skill set around emotional intelligence and go, oh, wait a minute, I'm feeling this, but this is my goal, this is this, and not just leading into it. I mean, we see that with our own kids all the time. I'm like, holy cow, I'm in my 40s and I have, still do that. So and is it like I'll gain supreme emotional intelligence? No, it's always just a journey, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, it's a journey. It's not the destination. We have a really good friend who just had a mega big exit of a company, right? Like, okay, I'm clear forever, right? Exit. And he was like, it was not what I thought. It was just such like a low kind of thing, And we think that
it's cool for like 48 hours.
Yeah.
You order the truck, and then it gets there, and you're like, sweet. And then your wife comes out, and she's like, are you going to do the dishwasher?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Wait a minute.
It just keeps going.
Oh, no.
It just keeps going.
You're quickly reminded. So I think like being present, like the idea of anxiety versus depression. Anxiety is worried about the future, right? Depression is like worry and you can't change the past kind of thing. And we can go either way, right? But around anxiety, how I have really, dealt with times when I've been overly anxious is like, wait a minute, just sit here, be present, just be right here. Even if it sucks, it's not going to always be that way. I often tell clients like, okay, I'm sitting in a big cornfield in Nebraska, blue sky. There's a big giant cloud over here. It's dark. It's gross. It's looking, it's coming. I see it. It's coming. It's over me. Oh, I'm feeling whatever, low vibes, down, whatever right now. But what always happens with clouds and storms? They pass by, right? So if we can gain that bit of emotional intelligence and go, this fight right now with my wife, she doesn't understand me or whatever, or these kids or that, it's just a moment in time, right? And there's a Nine Inch Nails song, I think it's called The Only Way Out Is Through, And that I love that because I just picture it's like, it's gritty, it's dirty, it's gross, and it's like, and the way that you're going to feel after that, are you kidding? Like a cold dip or a marathon or this, like something physically hard. The way I have never once gone to the gym, done something crazy, climbed a tree, jumped in a river, and gone, that was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. I feel worse. Never. That's just not how it works, right? So if we can think our way around that, around anxiety or depression, in this case, anxiety, it changes. It can change your perspective on it so much, and then you don't have to sit in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's that Judd Brewer talks about mindfulness. If you can just pause before you respond to whatever stimulus just popped up. Mm-hmm. And it's not just anxiety, it's all of it. Mm-hmm. Like this happened last week. I'm just being as open as I can. I pull up a pair of pants. I only have 4 pair of pants, and I rotate them, puff, puff, give, and I wear them all the time. That's it.
Yep.
And I pull the pair on, and you can be mean to me in the comments wherever you post this. My first thought was, are you freaking kidding me? Did my wife shrink these pants? And then right as it came out, I was like, oh no, it's me.
I expanded. That's why.
I expanded my pants. Yeah, exactly. I didn't expand my pants. That's not really.
That was funny though.
Yes, I expanded. I got huge. So here's the thing. I took 48 hours to be sad about it, right? And just be like all gropey and mopey. Not gropey. What the crap? I'm not gropey anyway. My God.
That was funny.
I was just looking through the window. I don't know where I got gropey from. I'm sorry. I was just mopey. I was just in a bad mood. Oh,
grumpy.
And mopey, yes.
Right.
Grumpy. There we go. Not gropey. Not gropey at all. Grumpy. And then it began. All right, here we go. Mm-hmm. Right. I know that I've been eating way too much and I've been stressed and I stress eat. And so now I'm having to, as I reach for something, just pause and feel that feeling and go, yep, that's hunger. Mm-hmm. And you're not really hungry and you're fine and you're going to be great. And it's been a couple of days of annoying, and now it's already starting to settle in. So it's just that whatever it is, whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to improve your marriage, this morning, my wife said something, and I'm on a 6-day caffeine fast, and so I thought I should pick a fight right now. That was stupid. And then my 8-year-old daughter started, and I was like, I could beat her. I could win against her too, right? And so then I'm like, what are you doing? And so I just stop and say, I'm feeling less than right now, and I chose to take it on you guys. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And my wife said, I forgive you. And she laughed, and my daughter was like, huh, and she ran off, whatever. So, but it's all, whether it's mental health, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, any of that stuff is, I'm going to feel it. Whew. and then we're going to go do the next right thing, man. And the longer I can extend that gap between when I act and respond and react, and just sit in it, man, the healthier me, my relationships, everybody's going to be.
I want to ask you a couple questions. I think that's great. So one thing I didn't realize was that my anxiety that I've dealt with has manifested in a way that I'd never heard anybody talk about. And surprise, surprise, it manifests in me being angry at people.
Irritable.
Irritable. So I want to talk about in our experience, so that, because I really want this to have a practical, I should just start a metal band. That's all I needed to do, I guess. But have a practical application here of helping people see maybe a different side of how anxiety can be experienced, and from our own perspectives even. Because when I explain that to clients or friends of mine, like, oh no, I take anti-anxiety medication, but I'm not a scared person. I do a ton of adventurous things, because it doesn't manifest as what people would think of as anxiety. I'm just pissed off at the world. Like, I'm mad at you, and I'm mad at you, and I'm mad because you talk to you. Like, so apart from me just being angry at everyone.
That's just called crazy.
Yeah, that's called being a redhead. Is it just being a redhead, guys?
Yeah.
But I would love to know if either of you have personal experiences or experience with clients that would help the person listening who goes, oh, that's a symptom of anxiety? Because I never thought being angry at everyone was.
My first default response is, for me, I get angry, like instantaneous angry when I feel less than, and when I've left something ungrieved. There's a great quote from an old poet, and I forgot her name, but it was, I finally stood and faced my anger, and she revealed herself as grief. And so there's things that I thought were going to be a certain way that I cared about that didn't end up that way. And I keep fighting for what I want to be true versus sitting in what actually is. All that to say is this. At the end of the day, my body's just trying to keep me safe. And whether that's anxiousness or anger, whatever you want to call it, I'm losing less and less. I care less and less about what we're going to call it. It is, my body defaults to anger when X, Y, and Z. When it feels powerless, when it feels like it can't control something, when it feels less than, someone's walking all over me, it just responds in this way. My wife, on the other hand, she gets real small. She disappears, right? And that's what kept her safe growing up. And that's what's right. So everybody responds differently. So for me personally, I don't mind that we call it anything. We call it anxiety, call it whatever it is. And thank God we live in a sliver of history when there's something you can take that will help you navigate those waters, because your waters get choppier than my waters might get, right? When the storms come, great. And then we're going to get to the other side. And so, I've seen anxiety manifest itself all over the place. That was my first initial response to, like, I don't think the DSM's right, or I think they're just making it up.
Right.
Because it felt like everybody was experiencing it in different ways. But I've heard it expressed as anger, almost more as rage. Like I'm trapped and I can't get out of this thing, and so I'm going to burn this place down just so I can feel the warmth. I've heard that as a relatively common anxiety response.
Yeah, like I'm thinking back of the actual criteria. One is, like I said earlier, irritability, excessive worry, feeling on edge, or inability to relax. And what that tells me is like, okay, these are signs of what we've labeled anxiety. But like you're saying, John, it's just alarm system. It's like, feeling the inability to relax. Well, maybe you are drinking too much caffeine. You're overstimulated. Of course, we're overstimulated anyway, but then we're not doing other things to turn our brain off. Our sleep sucks. We don't have good connection. I don't ever go outside. I'm always just cortisol response. So it's like, in your experience.
But can I add one thing? Can I add one thing here?
Yeah.
So I know I work at Ramsey and everybody's going to roll their eyes, but I believe this long before this, when I was working with my college students. Like, one of the criteria is an inability to relax, right? Like, I can't stop. Dude, if you owe a mortgage payment and you owe 2 car payments and you owe credit cards because you haven't put groceries on the credit card, your body would be failing you if it relaxed.
Right.
Because it knows if you say one thing and get fired at work, they take your house, they take your cars, they take your food. Like, that is a life or death situation for your body. And what do? We blame our bodies for it. Our bodies are right. We've created this matrix. Or if you're 45 years old and your mother-in-law is still telling you what your holiday plans are going to be, even though you can't afford them, and your kids are exhausted and whatever's going on, or if you've got an abusive spouse, of course you can't relax. Your body's working perfectly.
Yeah.
It's the system that you're in, right? And you got to deal with that. That's it, dude. You don't owe anybody anything. You make peace with your in-laws, and you start to create some boundaries in your life, and on and on. We could just name 50 different variables. Your body will relax. Whew, right? Because it's not fighting for its life every second. We've just made fighting for your life a way of American living, and then blamed our bodies for it. Can't do that.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. That's like putting a rat in a a concealed container or something and like pumping in radioactivity and saying, "Oh, now they have cancer," kind of thing. It's like blaming the rat. It's like, wait a minute, the environment has programmed everything for us to be anxious. You know, so in going back to what you were saying, it's like, okay, let that be kind of like a new chapter of we've identified all this stuff. Now, what are we going to do with them? Like, you have a choice, Melanie, to actually listen to your body and not blame it on every other thing, you know, and go like if I say one thing and my boss is going to fire me and I have a mortgage and kids and all this stuff, it's like, okay, that is where I am right now. Going back to your reality piece, that is where I am right now. Now let me take real consideration to map out a different path for myself and understand it's going to take a minute, you know, like, you know, somebody getting on.
It took me and my wife 15 years. 15 years, dude.
I'm glad you said that because
a decade and a half.
Yeah.
It's almost exactly the same time frame for us.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be married 20 years in August. High five.
Wow.
Coming up. And it took us a very long time, which, you have a marriage podcast. I'm a marriage. No, that's, who cares about that? It's like, no, we're just normal people that go through real, actual struggles. And we just happen to talk about it more than other people on the show. But it's like, man, and like realizing that stuff and basically never quitting. I think just being a lifelong learner, another lame cliche. It's like, that's what it's about. You know, it's like, okay, this isn't going to turn off. We're always going to be trying to accomplish stuff, and I want to be present for it all, but kind of changing it a little bit. And this is something that I am realizing in the last 2 months. Like before we came on air, we told you we're moving to Florida, making a big move, whoop, whoop, all kinds of stuff. And really, it's fun, right? But along with that, for me, like we have different, I think, perspectives of anxiety. Like as a husband, as a dad, I'm like, okay, dad mode, high alert. We got to provide. I got to do this. I'm figuring out everything.
I'm just trying to figure out how to ride gators every day.
Well,
that's all I'm.
Yeah, that's got anxiety in itself.
No.
But I'm
alligators or the four.
No, alligators.
Both. Excellent.
Yeah. But going into dad mode and all this stuff, husband, how am I going to provide? You know, take care of this and this and this. And I have realized since we've kind of clicked on, we're moving, you know, like we've clicked it on, it's no going back. I mean, if something happens, sure, it could stop. But we're going that way. I have had an increase in anxiety. Obviously, you know, there's some healthy stress there. It's like, okay, yeah, we're not just leaving tomorrow or anything like that. But, and this goes to your daily choices around belief, you know, and not to get super spiritual or to get super spiritual. We're a Christian, you know, God, all that stuff. I have realized it is highlighted in my life times where I have been anxious, or all the times I've been anxious. I haven't truly understood what it means to trust God. Like the first, like I think on like page 2 of your book. By the way, you guys, go get this book. We're talking about building a non-anxious life with Dr. John. Do not be anxious about your life. What will you eat or drink, or not about your body? What will you put on? Which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to a span of his life? And I have the tattoo right here about the birds of the valley, or the lilies of the valley and the birds of the air. They don't worry about what they're going to eat. God takes care of them. So how much more is God going to take care of us? I have realized in the last 30 days, and I got this tattoo like 18 years ago, in the last 30 days, Seth Studley, you have not trusted God as you should been, as you have had even the opportunity to. It's like I've had that opportunity and I'm just sitting here being anxious. How can I figure it out? I got to do this. I got to do this. But whoa, Seth, back up. Trust God in that. And it's definitely not close your eyes, go to sleep, you know, kind of trust God. Things will work out. It's no. What are you feeling called to? What are you feeling pushed towards? Okay, God didn't put that in your heart just for nothing. We're gonna work it out. And it's just been an amazing experience, which it truly blows my brains out, because like, I don't know if you do this to your wife, John, but I've come home so many times like, what about this? We got to do this. And aren't you worried about this? And blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's not, you know, and just like,
I'm over here just, again, trying to figure out how to ride an alligator every day.
right. And I'm like, but how can you think that way? What? I don't even understand it. But it really truly goes back to, wait a minute, you're taken care of, or you have a very strong belief that you're taken care of. Sit back, do good work, help people, trust in God, and things will play out. Have you ever felt like that, or is it just me? I don't know. I know you haven't, but
no, I think we on that verse you just read, that scripture verse, I think we often focus on the front end where it says don't be anxious, and we forget that. For me, the emphasis is actually on the back end of that verse, which is what possible good does worrying bring in your life? Zero, nothing. It contributes nothing. So go work real hard. Go do the things that you can control. Go take care of those things. Do the hard work and relax, because a choice to not relax is a choice to be miserable, because worrying doesn't do anything for you. It solves no problems. And I think the bigger conversation around belief is just this idea of surrender. Dude, you can't control the waves. You can't control the air. You're going to Florida in what is predicted to be a pretty hot season, coming on the back of a hot hurricane season, on the back of a wild heat wave and drought last year. It happens every 11, 12 years, and it gets crazier and crazier every year. Yeah, dude. Well, what can you do about it? Worrying about that's not going to help. You know what will help? Having plywood in the house in the back, so you can screw it in. Having a place to go. You know what I mean? Like when you have to evacuate. Worrying about that stuff is of no consequence, because there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
And so that was the chapter I didn't want to put in the book, and I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to talk about it. And I think that psychologists, especially psychological researchers, have ultimately just failed themselves. And the literature that suggests people that believe in something bigger than themselves, particularly religious, have better finances, have better marriages, their kids have better outcomes. I can't count them. Hundreds and thousands. There's so much literature out there. And so what psychology, which is a mostly atheistic endeavor, does is it brings you right up to the threshold, as my friend Dr. Beck says, and then it lets you go, because it can't deny what the data says, and then you walk away. And so I looked at it from an evolutionary psychology. Like, for all of human history, people have walked outside of their tent and fallen to the ground and looked up to the sky and said, "Dear God, or gods, please rain, or my family dies. Like, we don't make it. Please send food today, or we die. There's no grocery stores. There's no backup plan here." And so I think wired into us is this idea of putting your face in the ground and saying, "Please help."
Right.
The world cannot revolve around me. I can't carry that. And then in the last 200 years, man, we figured out how to run water in our houses. We figured out how to push a button on a phone and food just shows up. You can move across the country. That move would have taken your family like 4 years, and most of you would be dead.
Right.
It'd just be Seth. After eating all the dogs, would have rolled in on on the back of an alligator. Like, everybody's dead. He's got a lock of red hair, like in his
in memory,
woven in,
right?
Yeah, in memoriam. But like, you're gonna do that on a weekend, right? The world we live in is insane, and because it's gotten so insane so fast, we've quickly come to believe we did this. This is all on us. We're this good that we can bend the world to us, and it doesn't bend. And so this idea that wired into us, again, like you, my family, I'm Christian, my family's Christian, whatever you believe in, you have to walk outside and look up and say, "Please rain." Like, this whole thing is bigger than me. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to honor people. I'm going to wake up every day trying to love and take care of people and my family, and I'm going to do honest and right by people. And then please rain, right? Because my AI can come and wipe us all out, right? Who knows what comes next? And so this thing we're doing right now, this podcasting job we have, did not exist when the three of us graduated college. It didn't exist.
Yeah.
So who knows what comes? Dear God, please help it to rain.
Yeah.
Like, I just surrender this thing. And then when you surrender it, man, you open your hands. we used to confession. We've kind of perverted it. Like, what's all the bad stuff you've done? Confession used to be this getting with other people and saying, I can't carry it all, right? And everyone's like, okay, we'll carry it with you. And I think that practice is so healing and just relieves of this nonsense of self-actualization, that one day if you do all these things and get all these things, then the world will revolve around you. It won't. It never will.
That's the letdown we were talking about before.
Exhale. That's right. It's going to feel this way. It's not.
Yeah. So like you talk about this in the book, like the feeling of trying to carry the universe, and then obviously we can't, and people crumble and all kinds of stuff. But the times where I have truly, truly, truly just fallen on my knees and like, oh, I can't. Not like I give up, I'm defeated, but like, no, God, I can't. Like I've tried, like probably twice, particularly in our marriage, really difficult times, right? But then that moment of, God, I let go. It instantly relieves you, right? Because you're not holding it on yourself, right? And then it opens yourself up to the other possibilities because you're not so freaking preoccupied with the fact that you can't do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's just like, and it gives you hope. In Proverbs it talks about hope deferred makes a heart sick, right? A lot of us feel sick when we're only relying on ourselves, right? When we're only...
And that's our culture today, right? The culture is an anti-hope culture.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do is to tear somebody down. Because if there's no hope, then the person out there saying, hey, I've got an idea for a better future is insane. We have to destroy them, right? So the marriage podcast and the self-help authors and the, not the crummy ones, but the good pastors out there, like those people who are actually saying, hey, let's just slow down and do life a little bit different. It's an affront to us because we don't believe there's hope. If you survey young people, nobody's having kids. Nobody's like, it's the lowest amount of kids, of intimacy, of sex, any of those things. They all think they're going to be dead in 30 years. And we sold them that. We sold them that.
What a terrible thing.
Or we handed them smartphones and said, let the world sell it to them, right? But we've just created this world. There's no hope. And why in the world would I get up tomorrow if I just am going to get hit in the mouth again? I'm going to quit getting in the ring, right? And so we have to tell people, no, getting a hit's worth it, because on the other side of this thing is a marriage you can't at 20 imagine when you're 40. You just can't. And you have all the scars and all the crap. And dude, now I'm starting to understand what soulmate means. Soulmate's not on the front end. Soulmate's what happened to you on the back end, right? I'm starting to understand what two becomes one actually means when you bury a child, or when you bury a parent, or when you both sit down and say, are we going to keep being married? Because that's the choice. That's where we're at right now. Are you in? Because I can't keep being married like I was. Like, now you got to create something together. Now, okay, you can't know that when you're 24, when you're 30, or you're in your second year of marriage or fifth year of marriage. And so you just got to keep going. And we have to start turning the lights on out in the distance so people can see, okay, it sucks right now, but I can get there. I can get there. And that's what y'all do that's what y'all do in your coaching, that's what you do in your show, is you turn lights on all over the place. And like, I know it's miserable right now, but you can look over there. There's a small group of people around a fire over there. You can get there, right? Yeah. And you can keep going.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's interesting because I've had people tell me that they don't, that they think my positivity is fake. And it's such a weird thing where I'm like, I'm just trying to tell you how much I appreciate you and that I love what you're doing in the world. I'm just trying to lift people up because I think that's what God has gifted me with, is seeing like the amazingness in people who don't even see it in themselves. And I've had people go, okay, honest feedback. It seems like you're being disingenuous or whatever. And I'm like, I don't really care. So you want me to...
a statement about them.
I know, like you want me to be less kind. Awesome. Love that for the world.
Honest feedback. I don't ever want your feedback again.
Right? But one thing that...
So strange.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted...
That's like looking at somebody through like this and being like, hey, real quick, you look like you have bad breath. Like, you don't know what's in my head.
No,
right.
I know.
And honor the nice thing that just happened.
Yeah, and it's funny too because...
Okay, I interrupted you.
No, I like that too, what you're saying, because people have no idea the life that I've lived and the things I've gone through and what I've had to work through on my own. And just because I'm positive does not mean that I'm naive. It's a choice that I make to be positive and to love and to show that love.
So what if it's disingenuous? It's still kind.
I know. It's just
doesn't matter. If in my heart I'm like, I hate this guy. If I pay for your gas and let you in, like, that's a kind thing. Let's honor that.
I know.
And that's how you change the default setting in people. But anyway,
I was shocked by that. I was just shocked by it. But I do want to say this. As you guys were talking, I thought of this idea that I wish that I could go back in time and have heard this way earlier about anxiety specifically, is that I found that, you know, I'm an anxious flyer. Are you an anxious flyer, John? I feel like, did you not like to fly, or is that somebody else?
I think I hate flying with all of my heart, all of my soul. I hate flying.
Same, but I love travel, so I got to figure out, you know, I want to travel as my life, and so I got to figure out how to fly, right? So I used to really hate flying. And then I had to, at some point, we fly a lot, and I had to figure out, how can I make this less miserable? And so
Lorazepam.
No, stop it, knock it off. I have a really funny story about that.
No benzos,
yeah.
no benzos.
But I imagine, is it Doctor Strange who like turns into two people? Like sometimes he'll go into two alternate universes or something. Like imagine a Marvel character who can like go zwap, and then all of a sudden they're two different people, right? But they're the, like, whatever. I had to figure out, like, who's the brave Melanie? Who's that? What does she look like? So what does it look like? I'm on a plane. I want to freak out. I want to hyperventilate. I want to cry. But what would brave Melanie do? Oh, she'd just sit there and be fine. Oh, she'd talk to the person next to her. And so like I had to actually start making this like alter ego version of myself that could handle this stuff and tolerate it and grow. And I would like look to her in my mind and be like, okay, she's actually fine. She can do it. That means I can do it because I'm really hurt. Like, and I really am just saying this in case this is helpful to somebody, because that was so impactful for me. And that's a way I teach my kids also. It's like your set point might feel like, this is really hard, I'm really anxious, but what would the brave version of you do? What would the courageous version of you do? What would the strong version of you do? And you allow them to just imagine it, even if it's for 1 second. And then they can pop back in. And maybe we imagine it for 4 seconds, and then they can pop back in. And again, I don't know, I feel like someone needed to hear that maybe, but that for me is one of the coolest tools that I've ever used. And it helps me see myself in a totally different light with a lot more strength, you know?
So, I love that. And Seth, you may have experienced this, Seth, in your practice, and I may be out to lunch here, but one of the greatest hacks I've ever used, and I hate that word, so I'm using it intentionally just to be stupid. One of my greatest hacks that I utilize in my life is fake it till you make it. There are days I wake up and I don't want to be a present husband. I don't want to talk to my kids. I just want to read. I want to stare at my phone. I want to stare off into space. I want to eat Pop-Tarts and just chill. And I can't do any of those things and be a productive husband and father and community member. So I'm going to fake it till I make it. I'm going to just walk in and hug my wife. I may not say anything. I'm just going to hug. I'm just going to stand there for 30 seconds. I'm going to make myself make breakfast for my kids.
Yeah.
What do you want for breakfast? I don't know. I'm going to sit through that. And I don't like that. Ooh, okay. I'm going to fake it till I make it. And
your kids sound like a Sally comic. I don't know.
Oh, dude.
Sorry, keep on. Would you always what?
My daughter and I got into it last night. Like, you have to have a yes or a no. I'm going to start defaulting to yes all the time. And she's like, I don't know. Like, but like I've never faked it till I made it, especially relationally, and not come out good on the other side.
Right. There's a lot of research. I think I might be mistaken, but you know, Amy Cuddy from Harvard and her TED talking on the stuff. She and other stuff I've read. She talks about faking it until you make it, right? And then there's other research that kind of says not that, but I'm just going to go with what she was talking about. And what
I think fake it till you make it can be used abusively. Like if somebody is uncomfortable having sex with their spouse and like they're gonna fake it to like that can be unhealthy.
That's not what we mean. Yeah.
But when it comes to like, dude, just be kind.
Right.
Like I don't feel kind, but I'm gonna fake it.
Yeah. Like in healthy ways, like I don't want to work out today, but I'm just like fake like I want to run, or fake like this is fun, or something like that. There's it clicks a piece of your brain, like, and it goes back to what would the courageous, strong Melanie do? Well, I don't know. Well, I know what she would do. This one's not showing up that way. I'm going to fake it until I get there, right? So you're going to inch your way towards that. So it really casts a vision for yourself. You're like, okay, you're faking it until you make it. So you're going to get to the make it version of whatever you're kind of going through, right?
I love it. Makes me think of a lot of people wait to feel motivated to do something, but I always say, forget motivation. Dedication is what matters. And if you're dedicated to living a non-anxious life and feeling great and having a great family, choose dedication over motivation every single time. Like, act your way into it.
You said that great, Melanie. You said, forget motivation.
We know what she
Yeah,
wanted
no,
to say.
listen.
We feel strongly, right?
I'm trying.
That was awesome.
But like,
Forget motivation.
forget. But I do want to. I know we're coming up on time here. I want to leave listeners with, if they have been battling anxiety, maybe they've had all kinds of DSM bullcrap diagnoses that I probably gave them, are they on medication or whatnot, or things just don't work for them. Like, I love story and narrative. I think it's so powerful. I learn from what other people have done, and I really appreciate that. So, like, let's talk about just quickly, like, a mixture of that and then some, like, anecdotal stuff of what you've seen with your callers, of your zillions of callers. Like, yeah, you see these patterns and stuff. But just like, what can our listeners just kind of walk away with and have a different perspective on anxiety and some tools that can really, really help them?
Here, I'm just gonna give you some things, because as I wrote this book, y'all were with me. Y'all were the only people that would talk to me way back in the day when I had that little skinny pamphlet. As my daughter says, "Dad, that's not a book." But it's like,
man, your daughter's a zinger,
bro. She's
I want to meet her.
Like, man, right? And yes, she's hardcore. But as I revisited all that stuff, and man, I really didn't want to write this book because I had to go back to some old stories that I thought I was through with, and I really wasn't. I just glossed over them, and I gotten really sophisticated in glossing over them. But the story that I told, and that I told myself for a decade, was I had this moment. I was walking from my house, like from my apartment to my office on the university campus. I lived on the university campus. I'd moved my family there. We'd sold our house, waiting for the end of time to come. And so we're living there. I walked across campus, and then I just turned around and got in my car and drove 3 hours to my buddy, who's a medical doctor. All that's true. But in revisiting all of this, as I tried to find the roots of, man, where did all this madness start? I left out some really important things. For 1 year, a guy named Slade Sullivan, who was one of the greatest men. He's a Harvard law grad. He was the general counsel at the university. I saw him at the gym once, and he said, "Hey, I work out every morning at 5 a.m. if you want to come," or 5:15 or whatever. And I was like, and he goes, I knew you couldn't make it. I was like, oh, really?
Oh.
We worked out together for a 1 calendar year. And I would complain, I'd get frustrated, and there were days I would never have worked out other than I knew this guy was waiting for me. And he's a great father and a great husband, and he listened to me complain, and he challenged me, but it was just a buddy. And then both of us got tapped on the shoulder by this guy named Randy Harris, who was a bioethics professor, and he's also a monk. He would leave after school and go to a monastery till school started again. An amazing guy. And we sat with him for a year. And I'll never forget, we sat down for lunch, and he said, just before anybody says anything, I need y'all to know, I will go to jail with what's said at this table. I had never, my shoulders just dropped. I had never had that kind of freedom before. I could just say it. He's like, this is a hollowed space, and I hope y'all will treat it as such. And so he taught me how to meditate, and I'd never meditated by myself, much less in a group of people. And we started challenges together. All of those things led up to me getting the courage to go sit and talk to a doctor. And so if I was to itemize those things out, I would tell somebody, you have to begin to honor and take care of your physical body. If that means you're running 3 marathons a week, stop. Run 1. Run a half. You got to stop. And if you do nothing, you got to start walking around the neighborhood, right? Wherever you fall in that teeter-totter, you got to start honoring your body. And if you're moving across the country and you're stressed and you're trying to run 2 businesses while start a 3rd job and maybe a 4th job, this is not a good time for 75 hard again, right? And once you get to Florida and you've put on 30 pounds, because the cooking, dude, is something else. Seafood all day is so good. You're going to be like, it's time for 35, right? So you got to honor your body. You got to take care of your body. And you have to, as I would tell you to stop doing cocaine, and I would tell you to stop doing meth and stop smoking, you have to get people in your life that you will show up with on a regular basis that you can go, my name's John, I'm not okay. Or my name's John, and I'm having the best week of my life, and they're not going to do what they did to Melanie and be like, I don't think that's genuine. No, you get to say both. You get to say all those things, right? The good stuff and the ugly stuff and the gnarly stuff, right? So you have to have people in your life. And if your body knows that you're responsible for provision, for protection, for all the issues in the home, it won't let you sleep. It would be failing if it let you sleep all night. It has to wake you up at 3 a.m. every night because you are all you've got.
Right.
You've got to have other people in your life that you can be honest with. And honestly, that's often not your spouse. Your spouse can't carry all that crazy. You got to find other people. That's why you got to have a coach, you got to have a therapist, you got to have somebody you can reach out to, somebody at your church, a gang, a group of people you can watch the fights with. And that's a couple of them. And then if you need to, go see a doctor, man.
Right.
Go see somebody, a professional. I would suggest people in this day and age, and this is going to sound crazy, if you're reading more than a book a month, 2 books a month of self-helpy kind of thing, stop. You got enough information. Get a group of people that you can start acting some of these things out.
Right.
Start doing. Right. Start acting and doing. And so that'd be where I start. That'd be a few of the places I would start.
Yeah, I mean, I think that nails it. That what you just said about the oh, wait a minute, take into consideration the move, the jobs, all this stuff. And I haven't been running and going to the gym as much lately, you know?
Good.
And I'm kind of
Good.
I'm like, oh, dude, you got these trips. Oh, you got to do this. I'm like, hold on. Context here, man. You have a lot of stuff coming up. So if you're listening right now, take stock of your whole environment, what is actually going on, and be honest with yourself. So number one, don't internalize all the stuff you're not doing. And if you are doing too much and you're stressed to the max, give yourself permission to be like, I'm pausing this for a minute. I'm pausing this. What does real health, biopsychosocial, spiritual health look like for me in this season right now? You know what? When we get settled, when we get to, Florida, all this stuff and things are humming along as planned, then it would be wise to get back on a program, to do something. Now, just don't let your body go to hell, in a handbasket, of course.
So when I was writing, I am a stress eater. That's just, I surround myself with bags of candy and fruit, all kind of stuff. Could I not do that? Yes. And I sit there and just edge and scratch and I was talking to my buddy, one of the greatest nutrition minds on the planet, Dr. Lane Norton. And he's just become a good friend. And I was talking to him. I was like, dude, man, I hate entering into this book writing season. It's going to be 6 months. I'm going to be sitting at a desk and I'm just going to stress eat. And he knows, I've talked to him pretty openly about my issues with body image and body dysmorphia, and I don't look right. And I just, all that stuff. And he said, bro, number one, hating yourself before you even start is not going to get you anywhere. And number two, he just smiled and said, don't waste the calories. Just work out less and lift real heavy. A couple days a week. And I'm as big now as I've ever been. I gained a lot of strength I went more than 6 months. I went about 1.5 years, but I went too far. But now I can start doing some other things. But it was this sense of, dude, hating yourself already pre-worrying before you're going to worry. What are you doing? Yeah. And hard exercise is stress. Moving is stress. New businesses are stress. Your body can only handle so much stress. So let's take out the ones that you don't have to do. Let's do the things that's going to keep you whole, and then we'll move to another place and we'll get it up again, man. But we're playing a long game here. We're playing a 40-year game. Right. You don't have to win every second of every day. Yeah. The world's not the internet, right? And man, what peace! So good.
Yeah, it gives you room to breathe. So that is awesome. Yay to all that stuff. So last question. What's bringing you I think I asked you that. Well, I ask everybody this, but what's bringing you the jam right now? What are you into? I don't care if it's, I don't know,
turkey hunting,
making mud pies or turkey hunting or what is it? What's going on? What are you finding super cool right now?
I this year I promised myself I'd go see more live comedy and I would start going to concerts more.
Yes.
And can I run back my last month? It's going to make you jealous.
Yes.
Oh, no. Yeah.
On Wednesday, I saw this new hardcore band called Knocked Loose. And bro, if you haven't listened to them, I haven't seen a show like that where I'm too old to be moshing, but I always get in the middle of all the mess. And right before the show, the lights went out. I looked at my buddy and I said, hey, this room's about to set off. Like it's about to come unglued. And I haven't had that thought since '94 Pantera.
Yes.
They're special. Turnstile special, and then Social D and Bad Religion played in Vegas, and me and 3 buddies went down just to see them because the last time I'm ever going to see Social D, and I just was like, I need to go out on a big one. And then before that, we saw The Descendants and several others here in town.
Dang.
So anyway, I've been getting to these old punk shows because all the streaming rights are taking all their residuals, so they'll have to get back out on the road. And man, I'm taking full advantage. It's been a good time.
Yeah, awesome. Yes, concerts. I like just going by myself, even, so it's like, oh, I got my thing playing, and you just go. And it's the feeling when the lights go down. You're like, okay, it's about to get real. It's getting real. And that's awesome. So that is rad.
None of your listeners, listen. If you put Knocked Loose into your Spotify, just in the car with your family, they're gonna institutionalize you. Don't do that.
Okay, so do that. All the dads.
If you're not into crazy metal, this is not for you. If you're like, man, I really think modern rock music's gotten boring, and I don't have my kids in the car. Yeah,
go for it.
It's pretty good.
Okay, all right,
awesome.
that's funny.
I love you guys. I really am grateful for what y'all are putting out in the world. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. So tell everybody what's all your ats. Where's your ats?
Just
John
internets.
Yeah. Internets. Okay.
Yeah, you can watch the show at the after you listen to the Anatomy of Us show. Then you can go over and watch the Dr. John Delony show on YouTube and or listen to it on the podcast. And you can find me at John Delony on the internets all over the place.
Awesome. So you guys, building a non-anxious life, it's right here. If you struggle with anxiety, even if you don't, or somebody that does, like give me a break, go pick up the book. It really helps a lot. So John, thank you so much, my man. We really appreciate it.
Hey, I love you guys. Congratulations and good luck on your move, and swing through Nashville on the way. It'll be like a Christmas vacation. Y'all be driving across the country.
We can get our matching tattoos then. Sound
Everything
good?
will be all dusty by then. Yeah.
Dude, hey, y'all come into town and give me about a week. My tattoo artist here in town's awesome. We'll all get inked up. That'd be dope.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We should do it.
Be
She's
careful.
amazing.
Be careful.
Be careful.
All right.
We'll take you up
Thank
on
you,
that.
man.
All right,
That's
man.
awesome.